7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, everybody? It's another Victory Thursday for us here on the Pressure Front Podcast. I'm your host, JT, with my co-host, Lorenzo Alexander. This is powered by Avalon Sports. Zoe, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, brother? I'm doing well, man. Just enjoying flag football. You know, another Bills win. And so it's going to be real fun to get to see them here in Phoenix this weekend because I actually got a chance to go to the games because they're allowing about 4,200 people in. So me and my family will be out there and get to see them in person this weekend.
Good. I mean, it should be a great game, man. I can't wait to see this one. Much like this Seahawks matchup we just coming off of, we're facing another high-power offense. The Bills are going to have to put up some points. The defense is going to have to continue, as I call it, to wake up because it seems like they're coming around now a little bit. But we got a game to talk about. Before we do that, you had something going on in the community this week with LorenzoAlexander.org. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so we was out in actually in Oakland, California, my hometown. Lamont Robinson and Tristan George, two guys that I grew up with, actually have a foundation out there called WeLo, and then they also partner with Oakland Public Schools Middle School, and they were raising money for the sports program. So the ACES Foundation was able to support by sponsoring a foursome and also just making donations and helping raise money. And so it was really cool to be a part of that this weekend. And since I couldn't make it, I had some of my high school boys go out, you know, Patrick Rao, Deshaun Freeman, Matt Strauss, and Jeremiah Fielder, guys that I went to high school with. So it's a family affair, community affair, and that's the best way to do things as far as making a difference in the community. Raise a lot of money for Oakland Public Schools and their sports program in middle school. So it's really cool to be a part of that, even though I couldn't actually physically be there.
You know, you got a big playoff flag football game this week coming up. You know, you say you're taking the family out there. Now, a couple weeks ago, you said you was able to call Poe on the phone, Poyer, and get some tips. So you going to give them some tips from the game this week, maybe? Or actually, that your flag game was before, right?
Yeah, you know, nothing has really come up since then. You know, after I made that call to Poe, man, my son Mason's been out there picking everything off. He even had a pretty good play in practice today. So, no, I don't think I'm going to need to call the boys in. Hopefully, I'll have some highlights to show to them. I can send them to them to get them hyped before the game so they can go out there and follow Mason's lead.
Yeah. I can't wait till we get some film from that game there because I'm sure he's going to get a couple highlights and lights. He's going to make a couple big plays out there.
Yeah, always.
So we had a big game versus Seattle. We mentioned on the show last week that we needed a statement win, and they got the dub. How did you feel about this game? So how about this win they got here?
Yeah, I mean, it was significant. I mean, being able to jump out, I think at one time it might have been 17-0 versus, you know, a Russell Wilson-led offense. Anytime you can do that and get that type of cushion early, it's significant. And what I really loved that I saw is that they were able to finish, too. Because at times, especially when we think about that Rams game, they allow a team to kind of get back in it. And when you have Russell Wilson, even though we were up big, I was still holding on to my seat, just understanding how explosive that team is when you think about DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, who we talked about, and then obviously Russell Wilson having an MVP caliber season and some of the throws that he was making. But really impressed with our defense coming up with two big interceptions, you know, just flying around. Your boy Zimmer flashed again. He had two solid tackles that I think prevented some big runs that probably went unnoticed. But when I had a chance to watch the game back, it was really good to see that. And then Tremaine Edmonds, you know, really turning to his true form, feeling healthy. Had a chance to talk to him. He's like, yeah, just feeling healthy, getting confident, flying around. Saw him making a lot of plays. And then A.J. Klein stepped up big. Had some big plays in that game. I thought he played very physical, downhill. Obviously had a big turnover late in the game. And so to be able to see those guys starting to find the groove, especially when you got to go on the road. And when you go on the road, you got to travel your defense and your special teams. It's going to be significant. And a shout out to my boy Dre Roberts, big return to start off the game and really set the tone. He's continually showing people why the Bills kept him around. And it was great to see him to start the game off and really set the tone early. And that's what you want. In order to score a lot of points, you got to be great on special teams. And he set the tone early, and they never looked back after that first play.
No, that play set up the whole game, I thought. They came out flying. Like you said, they got up really early on the Seahawks. And number one, the Seahawks didn't go away. Russell Wilson didn't. They did not go away. And I wanted to ask you about being a young team, and this is still a very young Bills team. Do you have to learn how to close out games?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you do. I think when, especially you have younger players, guys that traditionally play in college, have won a lot, they tend to relax, especially, fourth quarter. You may be up by 2 touchdowns, feeling good, about to used to blowing people out. They not coming back. But especially in this league, when you play in the caliber of players week in and week out, and you think about Russell Wilson, what he's been able to do this year, I mean, that's really just 2 plays. I mean, you think about him and DK, they make a big bomb, come out, defense, maybe get a stop. The Seattle Seahawks defense has given up a lot of yards and a lot of points, but they have been opportunistic at times. And you get an interception or a huge stop and another big play, and they right back in it. And so you learn that you have to continually put your foot on the gas and not allow teams to feel like they can get back in it. And like I said earlier, I sat on the edge of my seat the whole game because I knew how explosive this Seattle Seahawks team was. And it was just great to see Josh and them continue to put pressure on them and never really give them any type of breath where they found like, they got to stop and maybe they got some rhythm to get back in this game. And so that was very impressive to see. And they treated Seattle Seahawks defense the way they should be treated. Last in the league and came out there, what do you have, 4-15, 4 tugs, something like that. It was really good to see and fun to watch. And they're going to have to bring that out here to Arizona because Kyler Murray is a monster. He's a younger, newer quarterback on the block. I think much in the same ilk of, like a good contrast to Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, what he's able to do. A good blend of both. He's still young, but has made a lot of plays and is actually having similar season what Lamar did last year as far as stats. And so he's balling out, and they're going to have to do the same thing, same game plan, if they want to be able to win this game this week out here in the Valley.
That's something I really wanted to ask you about because last week I mentioned going against Cam Newton the week before and then maybe trying to take some of those principles to Russell Wilson. And you kind of said, those are two different animals. But now you get to Russell Wilson, then to Kyler Murray. Are those similar principles there as far as scheme-wise?
I think Kyler Murray is probably is closer to Russell Wilson. I think they're a bit of a contrast as far as where they're at. Obviously, the weapons that they have. Cam is a good quarterback, not what he used to be, and he doesn't have the weapons like these guys have. And so now, last week it was DK and Lockett. Now you have to deal with Hopkins. You have to deal with, obviously, Larry Fitzgerald, who can still ball out and made some big catches last week. You have to deal with a guy like Christian Kirk, who can take the top off. And Andy Isabella, who's really good out here as well, who's not, a name recognition type guy, but he can come out here and make plays, stretch the field, and come up with some key plays as well. And so when you think about it, they're very eerily similar. Have a strong quarterback, a strong number one, and then they have some great supplemental pieces. And so, yes, as far as defensively, the Bills have to make sure that, number one, they have to contain Kyler and not allow him to extend plays because unlike last week, if Russ got out, he may get, 15 yards or maybe 10 yards. Kyler runs a 4-3, and he can turn that thing into a touchdown, a big 30 or so yard game. So you have to start there, have to be able to contain him, get him on the ground, make him and he had some issues earlier where he threw some interceptions. And so, Micah and Jordan doing some great jobs of impacting him by disguising and, catching the ones he throw to you like they did last week when we saw Tre'Davious do a great job, and it looked like either a cover to a trap principle, come off and steal a deep out, and then Jordan down in the red zone getting a great pick as well. And so those are the things they're going to have to do to limit this offense and take possessions away from them because they have been on a roll here of late as far as, being able to put up points and lost the game last week that, if their kicker, makes a couple of field goals, they may be winning that game last week versus the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, the Miami game, I actually got a chance to really watch that game, and Arizona kind of blew that one. They had a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they let Tua come back and drive down the field, score, and I think Miami got the ball back from him again. Actually, the mistake by Zane Gonzalez, which it looked good, but then it just fell short from 49 yards, which was really surprising. But we go back to this Seahawks game. I mean, I thought Josh Allen returned to form, and a lot of people were saying that maybe these last couple weeks that he's playing with a separated left shoulder, the one he injured in the Raiders game, that could have been affected him. And as that heals up, as we speak about Tremaine Edmonds healing up as well, he looked like the Josh Allen from the first couple of weeks of the season, which is extremely dangerous. And actually playing on a heavy heart with the death of his grandmother the night before that game. Two-part question here. Do you think that injury really affected him those last couple of games, and possibly have you ever had to play with a heavy heart, like losing a loved one or a close family member or friend, or play with somebody that had to right after?
Yeah, I mean, it might have been 2012. My mother-in-law passed right before a game, and me and my wife went out there to the funeral and was able to come back. Unlike this year with COVID, Josh wasn't able to, maybe partake in that or go at least see the family and be able to get back. So obviously our hearts and prayers go out to him and his family as they continue to mourn and grieve the death of his grandmother, and then also celebrate her life. And obviously the Buffalo Bills organization, as well as the fan base, really has done a great job, obviously raising money and donating to O'Shea's Hospital and in her honor. So we just want to give him a shout out for doing that. And so I have been in a similar situation, and it seems when people are in that mode, you're playing with a different type of intensity, and you raise up a lot of times because you're just so in tune spiritually to what you're called to do. And Josh went out there and played a great game in memory of her, so that was very impressive. What was your other question? You had another question.
The other question. Yes.
Shoulder. So yes, it did impact him. I think. I mean, he may never admit to it. I would never admit to it, but you're playing with a separated shoulder. You can feel it. Every time you get hit, every time you hit the ground, you're in cold weather. So something that nags you throughout the week. So it's there. But at the end of the day, you still have to go out and perform. And I know he'll never use that as an excuse, but you can definitely see that he's starting to feel better. I think combination of him feeling better and also playing a very poor defensive team, you come out and you're going to have those type of numbers. And it's just impressive that he's taking advantage of it, given what the defense gives him, and as well as recovering, health-wise, and going out there and put together a pretty good game. Or great game, I should say.
Yeah, great game. And I mean, not only did he have a great game, but he got the second AFC Offensive Player of the Week award this season. I think it's his fourth overall. I think he got two versus the Dolphins before, and I think he got one this year against I think it was the Rams game that he got the other one. So I mean, definitely congratulations for him on doing that, and I definitely shout out to the Buffalo community as a whole. They're getting together, and when they want to make something happen, they've been doing it over the last 3 years. So definitely kudos to the entire community, because they've raised a lot of money for a lot of great things out there. And it's unimaginable what they can do in a short period of time at that.
Yeah, and during a pandemic, when everybody's hurting anyway, right? And so they put that to the side and sacrifice and still come together collectively for something bigger than everybody to really make a huge impact in a lot of families and a lot of kids' lives. So just a great example of what our country is, and did a great job at exemplifying that. And they do it all the time. I'll tell people all the time just how good they are as far as coming to support people, events, showings, raise money. This happens to be on a bigger scale, but I think overall, the city of good neighbors throughout, Buffalo, everybody does a good job of supporting everybody.
When I first heard about his grandmother, because I actually didn't find out that his grandmother had passed until after the game. I had no idea. And after I watched that performance, the first thing that came to my mind was the Brett Favre performance, 2003, December, the day after his dad died. And, if you look at the stats here, they're kind of eerily similar.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, it just shows you. I mean, people tend to lock in when they're going through something, whether you're sick, mourning, grieving, injured sometimes. You just focus in because you want to play for something. You end up playing for something bigger than yourself, especially in this case when you think about somebody passing away and the relationship you had, and you just want to go out there and honor their name or honor them and their relationship that you have with them. And people just elevate. It's almost become like an out-of-body experience. And you go out there and do some great things. And so, like you said, it's very eerily similar to what Brett Favre did. But I've seen it constant. When people are going through things, they seem to rise up just to represent that person and that relationship and just try to embody them by the way they go out there and compete.
That's definitely understandable. I mean, you're probably just trying to find some level of normalcy when in chaos, if you want to call it that, at the current time. We're reviewing Stephon Diggs. Obviously, we get to the midseason point now for Buffalo, and I was looking at Stephon Diggs' stats. And in Minnesota last year, 94 targets, 63 catches, 1,100, pretty much 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. And this year, he's pretty much already matched those stats outside of yards and touchdowns for coming to Buffalo in just a 9-game stretch. But Brian Baldinger recently broke down a film of him of a play. He turned a drag route into 8 yards of separation into a 17-yard gain.
Right.
In man coverage. Stephon Diggs, I mean, what has he brought to this offense, and what has he allowed Brian Dable to do as a play caller as far as just be able to open up his offense and do?
I mean, it's just another guy on the field that can play at a high level. And obviously, he's a true number one. Is very shifty, has the ability to create separation. And once he catches the ball, has a great ability to run after the catch. And so when you add another person with a great ability into a cog of players that already have pretty good ability, you think about Beasley, Brown. It's almost like playing basketball where you added another shooter on the outside and the floor spreads for maybe a guy that loves to penetrate. You just spread everything out. And so a guy like this, because of the guys that are also around him, is able to get, advantageous matchups, drag routes, catch it, turn it up because they're so worried about maybe John Brown taking the top off. Maybe one play, the statistics say, hey, they're going to go to Beasley because of what he's been doing the last couple of weeks. So let's try to bracket him and take him away. Nope. Here goes Diggs coming across the field. Boom. So it's just so many different times and different things that you can do that he allows other people to rise up and shine. And then what they do, taking advantage of that opportunity, then they conversely add to him and allow him to even be more explosive and do more things too. So it's complementary football. And like I told you way back in week 1, that's what's going to happen because it's too many weapons to take away somebody. And so week to week, you have to figure out who we going to take away because this guy just ate us up for 100 yards. So now let's go and try to stop him. Well, he just ate us up for 100 yards. Let's go over here and stop him. And so you really, as a defensive coordinator, you may start the game. All right, we got to take Diggs away. If they beat us with everybody else, so be it. But you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? You don't want to do that. Look, they're trying to guard him one-on-one. You can't guard Diggs one-on-one. You have to have 2 guys with him, but because of all the other weapons, he's open. And then his run after the catch is nice, man. I don't know who number 22 is for Seattle, but my gosh, they was going at him all day. He looked like he was tired, and they just wore him out. So it was just a fun thing to watch. When you have an opponent breathing hard constantly the whole game and giving up stuff, you just know you're dominating. And they kept going at him, and that's what I mean by keeping your foot on the gas. Hey, we see somebody out there that's a weak link, we're going to keep going at them. And they're going to have to identify whoever that is this week and take advantage of those matchups because they can't. The 3rd and 4th DB or whoever they think is going to cover and lock down the 3rd or 4th option on this Bills team, they're just not good enough because it's an offensive league, separation. And so even if you are in the vicinity, I mean, it's a 5 and 6 yard gain. And so it's just hard to stop unless you just, they're not hitting. And the only time this offense has really been stopped in my eyes is when balls have been dropped, just not on the same page and they don't get that rhythm. But nobody's really stopped them. It's been more about what they've done early, not catching balls, maybe being a little bit inaccurate and not being on the same page. And so that's what I wait to see. If they come out starting fast, it's going to be a long day for the Arizona Cardinals defense.
John Brown. I mean, that's one name it kind of getting lost to shuffle. He's been a little bit banged up this week, and he came back last week and he made an instant impact. I tend to feel like the couple games that he was out, the defense was, as you mentioned, was able to bracket Stephon Diggs, but with John Brown in there, you can no longer do that. And Brown killed them, man.
Yeah, I mean, he just adds that extra dimension as far as taking the top off. It's just one other burner that you have to worry about. So you cannot leave John Brown by himself. I mean, he's taking hitches. or taking it off the top. I mean, he'll get you a couple of different ways. And when you're able to open up things like that, add that another dynamic player, it's just hard. And then again, I always go back to Cole Beasley, what he's been able to do, and then another guy I'm still waiting. I know it's coming. Is Dawson Knox. We really haven't seen him come onto the scene yet. And so when you add him in there, once he takes off, it's going to be even more dynamic. And I think this week we'll see what happens. But watching the Arizona Cardinals and Miami Dolphins game last week, I thought offensively the Miami Dolphins line was a little bit more physical than the Cardinals defensive line. And so maybe they see it on the film. We can even get Zach and Devin Singletary back in the mix. Obviously last week just killed them through the air, so there's no really reason to run them. But maybe getting them back to what they did versus the Patriots. Hopefully they're healthy. Maybe you can update us on the injury report as far as when we talk about Mitch Morris, Darrell Williams, and then who else went out? One other guy went out, Cody Ford. As far as where they're at this week, because I think having all three of those guys healthy and ready to go and put Feliciano back at guard, they may be even able to run the ball at a high clip on this team as well.
As far as the injury front, Cody Ford and Tre'Davious White, they're both back at practice today. I believe Mitch Morris, I'm not sure if he's been cleared yet. It's kind of a tricky situation because this was his fifth concussion.
Oh wow!
So they're gonna take this, obviously a little step further to make sure he's good to go. Jerry Hughes did not practice today. That's probably just a rest day. Yeah. Mario Addison had a rest day. John Brown had a vet rest day. Actually, Mitch Morris was full go today, so he'll be back. Brian Winters was full, did not practice or limited. TJ Yeldon was full. So I mean, the guys are pretty much healthy.
Yeah,
and Josh Norman was back today, I believe, as well. So
well, good. I mean, so they got all their guys back healthy. It looks like, and so the biggest thing is going to make sure that they travel, obviously to the valley, and then bring that energy with them. Oftentimes you get off a plane and there's nobody, especially now you have to deal with, and I know we're, week 10 now. So they've dealt with empty stadiums. And this stadium out here, I have at least, I think, 4,000 to 5,000 people in it. I'll be in there screaming as loud as I can, try to help them out on third down. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. But making sure they bring that juice because they're going to need it in order to win this game and be able to sustain it. And I think as the season goes, the teams that are able to maintain that energy the longest, and I think it's, probably been under-talked a little bit because now everybody has to deal with it. But it is hard to maintain energy for 4 quarters when you don't have, that crowd kind of feeding you. And being booed, they used to feed me just as much as the home crowd cheering me, if not more, because now I get to beat not only the team in front of me, I get to send home 60,000 fans disappointed, right? So that's even more so. So just making sure they travel well, especially defensively and special teams, bringing that energy. And then, Josh and them boys should do what they do, just executing and dicing them up. And it's going to be interesting because this team has played well in the Arizona Cardinals defense. They have been opportunistic as well. They have some good players. I'm talking like I haven't watched them all year. They haven't given up some yards, but they have made plays when they need it. And again, I think it's really going to come down. Very similar game to Seattle. Which defense is going to be able to have more stops? And so, does Pat P travel with Diggs? I think Drake Kirkpatrick is back this week. Byron Murphy, who they missed last week in that game due to COVID, is back. They get Devon Kennard back. I think both safeties are back. So they're going to be at full strength as well, this Arizona Cardinals defense. And Marcus Golden had a really good game last week. His first after getting traded from the Giants out here to the Valley. I believe he had like 2 sacks. So rushing the passer. So maybe they feel like they don't have to blitz because Josh has done a really good job against the blitz. So maybe they play a little bit more coverage based on what he did last week. And Josh Morrow had another guy they signed last week. So this defense of the Arizona Cardinals does have some guys that can make some plays on it. Obviously, Budda Baker and what he's been able to do this season too. So it's going to be a fun game to watch, and it's going to come down, I think, down to who wins that turnover battle, much like it did for both these teams last week.
It's going to be very it's a very interesting matchup because, like you said, it is similar to Seattle. I would say obviously the Cardinals have some better players on that defensive side of the ball, some real game changers on that defensive side of the ball. We have one guy that I know is going to be juiced up for this game, and our big friend and Big JR 97 Jordan Phillips is going to be juiced up and ready to go, and Jordan Hicks at middle linebacker.
Yeah, and Hicks has played well all year. Campbell as well. They've done a really good job in the middle, and obviously Jordan, he's going to be juiced up. I know he's going to be out there talking trash and trying to run through guys' face and get to Josh and doing what he normally does. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Sometimes I think the familiarity of knowing a guy helps you too, because you take away some of that mystique some guys can have, because Jordan is a big man, can play, but if you've seen him every day in practice, you're going to bring the same type of energy because you know who he is, right? Versus maybe not seeing Aaron Donald all the time. It's just a different type of feel that you have. But I do think he's going to come out there and try to impose his will because he's a big physical player. But they're fast. They move around. The one thing they have given up is some big plays. They have had some miscommunications on the back end. And so they may try to exploit some of those, much like what they did last week versus Seattle.
Speaking of the Cardinals, this is a organization that I've been watching the last couple of years, and I really respect what they've done as an organization of turning that ship around. And Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane always preached the one Buffalo model, one voice, and they've kind of done the same thing in Arizona with Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury and getting their guy in Kyler Murray. But much like Buffalo went and got Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley. They went and got Kyler Murray, Kenyon Drake, D-Hop, Eddie Isabella, Christian Kirk. What is it with teams and actually building around the quarterback and doing it the proper way that these teams are going to lead these teams to winning down the line?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously all starts with the quarterback. And so they've done a great job. And I think, I know Steve. I played for Steve. I played for the Cardinals 2 years in 13 and 14 and got released in 15. But have great respect for who he is and his vision and his plan, and he does what he thinks is best for the team. And he's always a guy, not just your superstars, but always searching, always trying to learn, always trying to get better. And I think Michael Bidwell, along with Steve Keim, and when I saw with BA, they had a great synergy. So it's all about very similar to Buffalo, right? You think about the Pagulas, Sean and Brandon, how well they work together. That same thing is emulated out here in Arizona. And those organizations tend to do better, especially be able to bounce back when they have some adversity. And I know Cliff is probably fitting in that same situation, just like BA did, even though he's a lot younger. Same type of synergy, one voice that you talk about, and that's huge, especially when you think about Steve drafting Josh Rosen, and then the next year not only changing the head coach, but then also saying, "Hey, we got to go get this guy, Kyler Murray." And so that was a huge shift. But they trusted each other. And reboot it, and now with Kyler Murray and what he's been able to do out here, he's a rising star. Was a dark horse for the MVP. Has made a lot of plays. Actually put this team on his back last week and really carried them as far as the plays he was making with his legs and his arm, as far as keeping them in that Miami game. And they've added pieces, as you said. They brought a D-Hop with a great trade. Was able to get him for, I think, a player in a 6th-round pick. D-Hop, one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the league. Obviously, they got Stephon Diggs, who's going to say nope. No, he's not. I am. But he brings that same dynamic to the team. He's opened things up, and they've had a great synergy, even not having a traditional offseason. I'm always going to mention Fitz because he's a baller. He may not be having Hall of Fame numbers like he used to, but he's always going to make impactful plays, whether it's third down, whether it's time is running down. Hey, we got to get this ball spotted. Going to grab the ball, running into the ref so we can clock it, or we can get our field goal team on here to kick points. So he's always making those type of plays. Christian Kirk taking the top off, had some deep balls, much like a Gabe Davis. We didn't even mention Gabe. I'm sorry, Gabe. Should have mentioned you as far as what you've been able to bring to the Bills offense. Christian Kirk is doing some of the similar things. Andy Isabella's mixing in there as well. They don't really have anybody like a Cole Beasley because Cole is one of few that can do what he does, how shifty and quick he is. So that may be one of the pieces that they don't mimic over here. But Ken Drake has been really good. Chase Edmonds. They have a lot of great pieces that Steve Keim has been able to find, whether it's been through the draft or really vetting free agency or through trades. And so they're doing a great job here as well. And this is going to be one of the organizations because they are doing it the right way that will be very competitive in this strong NFC West for at least the next, 2 to 3 years because, windows are very short the way the salary cap works. But, yeah, very dynamic, and they have a quarterback that's on a rookie deal still.
Yeah, very bold move by Steve Keim. I mean, taking a quarterback 2 years in a row in the first round. I mean, that's bold. I mean, I remember people telling me, "Hey, he's going to take Kyler." I'm like, "You're crazy. You're insane. He's going to take a quarterback 2 years in a row. What are you talking about?" I mean, he did, and it was bold moving and it panned out. But no, I can't wait to see this matchup. I can't wait to see the chess match because I want to say, and this is just my personal opinion. I often feel that even when you're on a team that the Bills defense and Sean McDermott, Lazy Frazier's defense always had their better games against quarterbacks that were more mobile. I don't know why I felt like that. I just felt like the game preparation, they felt in their comfort zone. And I think last week versus Russell Wilson, the game versus Lamar Jackson last year, this game versus Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what the defense does.
Yeah, and I think it's the game plan. I think also guys rise up because you just mentioned some very dynamic players. So as players, you get tired of hearing about coaches. Oh, why, Lamar, Russ, Kyler. So you want to rise your game up and show your coaches, hey man, chill, we got this. So that may have a little something to do with how guys play because you just get tired of hearing your coaches, rightfully so, pump a guy up. But hey, man, we over here, we in the league too. We can make some plays, and so obviously we seeing Kyler. He's made plays, and they're gonna have to just be able to rebound because he's gonna have a couple of plays where he makes, but he may give you a couple of balls too. So just be ready for that because he's still young, still learning. And last week he was really frustrated because they have lost. Nobody does well with losing. He's far from it because he's used to winning at every level, right? And so there may be some times in the game, who knows, where he maybe tries to do too much. So when he does that, take what he gives you. And, it goes back to, making sure that you catch the ones that he throws to you as far as interceptions and taking advantage. Because that to me is what it's going to come down to.
Well, with that being said, that might lead us right into your 3 keys of the game. What you got? Arizona Cardinals, Buffalo Bills. What we got to do to win this game?
Honestly, it's very similar to last week because these teams, especially the Cardinals, are very similar to the Seattle Seahawks in a lot of different ways. I think their defense is an uptick from what you get from Seattle, but it's going to come down again to scoring touchdowns when you get down to the red zone. This Arizona Cardinal team has had a couple of close games, beating Seattle by a field goal, and then it comes right back and lose by a field goal versus the Miami Dolphins. And so it's going to be a shootout, very similar. A lot of points are going to be scored because this is an offensive league, and teams and referees tend to err to the side of the offense. And so when you get down into that red zone, making sure that you're putting TDs up there and not FGs. That's going to be very significant this week to really apply that pressure and maybe make Kyler feel like he has to try to keep up with you offensively, and then again try to put this team back on his back. And sometimes that leads to doing too much. And then that leads me to my second point, winning that turnover battle. Whoever limits or takes the ball away from the opposing quarterback more is going to probably win this game because you're limiting possessions, you're limiting opportunities to score this game. And then again, hey, I didn't miss my boy last week. I'm not going to leave him out this week. Dre having at least one big return, whether that's punt or kickoff, setting up the team up, that those tone setters. And I'll throw the whole special teams units in there anyway. Just being a tone setter, come out with a big hit. We saw Daryl Johnson last week have a big hit on a kickoff. So that was another big play on special teams. So making sure they bring in that juice, being smart, and really setting the team up offensively and defensively, much like they did last week in that complimentary week football. We're talking about field position to help the offense score points and the defense to keep them backed up to keep points off the board. So those are my keys to the game. And if they do those things, much like what they did last week, they'll come out victorious.
Very important game for Buffalo here. They have the opportunity to go into a late bye week into the season, pretty much for the most part healthy. And if they win this game 8-2, I mean,
Right.
that pretty much puts you in the driver's seat the rest of the way. And this is the tough part of their schedule. And if they could come out of this part of their schedule with definitely more wins than losses, and so far they're doing good with it. I mean, hey, the sky's the limit at that point.
Yeah. So you got to finish strong. We always talked about, you want to bank games early, but it always comes down to November and December as far as setting yourself up for the playoff run and positioning yourself in the most advantageous spot. Obviously, that starts first with winning the division, getting a home playoff game, and then who knows, maybe even getting the first round, which is maybe hard because of the tiebreakers. But if you can, figure out a way to kind of build that momentum and go in there strong, you never know what's going to happen. But you definitely want to set yourself up to hopefully get a first round bye, which sucks a little bit this year because only one team gets it. But maybe, who knows, maybe no team gets it because they may go to 18 playoffs,
Right.
and that changed the whole dynamic of it. But yeah, you want to win in November, December, and have a rising tide as you walk into the playoffs.
Right. Speaking of that, before we take off here, the tiebreakers, you have a big game versus Pittsburgh, who are number one seed later in the season. That's huge. You have the Chiefs, the Raiders, they didn't play all their interdivision games yet. That's huge. In Tennessee, they're playing the Colts in the big game tonight, and if they lose that, they're behind you. So it's a lot of jockeying. It's a lot of things looking in the Bills' favor at this point in time if they could come in this game and win in Arizona. But Zoe, another great show, man. Next week's the bye week, right? Are we back? Are we back on next week?
Yeah, but next week is the bye week. Week 11, I think that is a bye week. But
Yeah.
we can jump on and update you about the the playoff run and flag football and whatever else we got going on, and just hang out and just talk ball around the league too.
That's it. We can talk about anything, man. Zoe knows, man. Zoe knows. So, Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. Once again, this is the Pressure Front Podcast. I'm your host, JT, with my co-host, Renzo Alexander, powered by Avalon Media, Avalon Sports. And actually, shout out to Avalon for picking up Zach Moss this week, 2 on the team. We getting more teammates, man.
Yeah, that's big time.
So, but hey, guys, make sure you tune in next week, same time, same place. Remember, it's 8:30 now on Thursday night. So time to change. That's we back at 8:30 next week. So, once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, please be safe. We'll catch you guys later.
Peace.
Peace.